So if you work in sales or business development, or anyone who has a calendar somewhere where people book calls to inquire about services and businesses and like leads and all that stuff, you're gonna love this automation. So we're gonna use two tools. One is Zapier and two is Clay. And basically, as soon as somebody books a call on your calendar, our automation is gonna automatically do all the research about that potential prospect and their business and give us a summary in our Slack, so we don't have to do any meeting prep at all. All we gotta do is read the summary, so we'll know exactly who this person is, what their business is, what they probably want, and it will be best prepared for the call without spending any time doing the research by ourselves. So here's the tutorial. So my first step is going to be setting a trigger, which in this case is Calendly. So every time a new call is booked, it's gonna trigger my automation to start running. Again, Calendly is just an example. This could work with any other appointment booking software they use, HubSpot, just your calendar, Outlook, whatever you may be using, it's gonna work with that. Calendly is just an example. So in Calendly, as soon as somebody books a call, it's going to trigger our automation. Then our next step is going to be create a record table in Clay. So for those who are not familiar with Clay, Clay is kind of like a CRM, but like on steroids. Basically, like it has a bunch of pre-built workflows and workbooks that can do a lot of like, research automatically. For example, it connects with Apollo, it connects with Crunchbase, it connects with LinkedIn. So like, let's say if you want to like enrich your leads list, it's going to pull information from all these different sources. Then you can have those like, in a table. So it's going to build out that entire table, like, complete picture of your lead. It's basically a sales enablement tool where it's going to enrich your leads list, create those personalized messages and like send those out away like automatically kind of thing. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's a pretty powerful CRM tool. So Clay can have its own separate video, like it's a big topic. So I'm just gonna go over it quickly, like what I have set up in Clay. So just for the sake of this automation video, so you understand what is going on here. So in Clay, I have like a bunch of different columns. Basically like, I have a column that once I add a new lead via email and name, it's gonna run like a couple workflows, which is gonna go through their LinkedIn, it's gonna go through the website and sort of like pull information about who the person is and what their business is. And I have like all these columns that I can do. If just to kind of like give you a quick preview in Clay here, if I go to add column, then I go to like add enrich, I have like all these different options for like enrich company information, enrich personal information, some AI suggestions and all that stuff. So all I gotta do is like click on it and then like pick that workflow, and now it's gonna create the column. Some of these columns do need integration with those tools. So again, that's why I said, it's a separate video. But let's just assume for now that I've used Clay to pull the information about the business from their domain, and also the person does from sort of like their LinkedIn. So our second step is to add that person in Clay. So as soon as I add that person in Clay, within Clay, it's gonna run those columns automatically. So like the information that I seek is already added to my CRM. This is why I have my third step, which is to add a bit of a delay. So in my delay, I'm just kind of giving it 5 minutes so that all those things are automatically populated. I haven't tested it before, like how long does it take for Clay to like do all the steps. Maybe I don't need the delay, but just as a safe measure, I was like, let's just pause for 5 minutes. I mean, I have lots of time before I need to take the call anyway, because it's not like the call is going to be scheduled and then like it's right away and I have to like learn about the client like in 2 minutes. My next step is to go back to Clay and then like find the customer again. This is so that I can start retrieving the information I need to for like my research purposes. So I'm gonna like in my setup, I'm gonna connect my app, which is Clay. My event is gonna be find everyone on the table. Under configuration, I'm gonna use their email as a way to pull that information about that particular lead from my table in Clay. That's like the value that I'm using here. And I'm gonna test it just to make sure it's pulling in information and everything looks good. So our final step is gonna be now sending us a message in Slack. So we're gonna look at our Clay table. We're gonna see what information do we need about this person to prep for the call. And then we're gonna take all the information, package it up and put it in a Slack message. So just before the call, let's say we're back-to-back calls, we've got 15 minutes downtime in between. I can quickly read over and I'll have a good idea on the call I'm getting myself into. So for this, we're gonna set up Slack. So I'm gonna pick Slack as my app. My action event is gonna be send channel message. Again, I could send this message to myself. I just created a new channel called new leads. So that way, if anybody else on the team also needs to look at this information, the research is shared. So it's a new channel. I'm going to send the message to the channel. I'm going to connect my account. Then under configuration, I'm going to pick the channel. And then for the message, I'm going to pull that information from Clay. So for name here, I'm pulling my invite name. For title, I'm pulling that title for the cell that I have in Clay. And likewise for company information as well, the cell I have in Clay for that company information. Quick note here, you'll see these variable names are like, for Clay are like very clunky. It's like cell FO3SBI389. So far, like, I don't know why within Zapier, like when I'm looking at the information that's being retrieved back from Clay, it doesn't have the right variable names as like the column names that I have in Clay. I don't know if it's an issue from Clay or it's an issue from like Zapier. It might just be an API issue between Zapier and Clay, which I hope will be fixed very soon, either from Zapier's end or Clay's end. So in the meantime, I would say like when you pull that information, just sort of like map it one-to-one on paper or somewhere else. So when you're like building out this step, you'll know exactly the information that you're retrieving. But of course, it's also going to give you that sample data on the side, so you'll know if you're picking the right variable or not. So it's really important that you do this step a bit carefully, because you want to pull the right information. But of course, once everything is done, we'll be testing the step just to make sure we are pulling the right information for our research. Once everything looks good, just hit publish and our automation is ready to go. Now, every time a new lead books a call, our automation is going to run, the Clay is going to do all the research, and we're going to bring all the information back in Slack so we can prepare for the meeting in like 2 minutes instead of spending those 30 minutes doing the research manually. Leave a comment if you have any questions and let us know if you want us to do a tutorial on how to use Clay. So that could be a whole separate video. If you learned something new, give a thumbs up. If you're actually going to try it, subscribe to our channel because we do a ton of videos on how to leverage AI automation to get work done faster. See you in the next one.